I've spent a huge part of my career building things, breaking things, and blowing things up, all in the name of science and separating fact from fiction. And there's one piece of hardware that's surrounded by more myths than almost any other: the shotgun. We've all seen it in the movies. The hero, woken in the dead of night, grabs a shotgun. The sound of that pump action slide is the universal signal for you picked the wrong house. It's an iconic, powerful image, one that's deeply embedded in our collective consciousness as the ultimate problem solver for a home invasion. It's presented as a simple, foolproof solution. But here's the thing about myths. They often contain a kernel of truth, but it's usually wrapped in layers of exaggeration, misunderstanding, and downright bad information. When we're talking about something as critical as protecting your home and your family, relying on Hollywood logic just isn't good enough. The stakes are far too high. We need to look at the data, we need to test the claims, and we need to understand the real-world physics and practicalities of what happens when you pull that trigger inside the four walls of your own home. So, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're taking these long-held beliefs about shotguns and putting them to the test, just like we did on the show. We're going to build, we're going to experiment, and we're going to get our hands dirty to find out the truth. Is a shotgun really the ultimate home defense weapon? Let's separate myth from reality. Alright, let's tackle the biggest, most pervasive myth of them all. The idea that you don't need to aim a shotgun. The story goes that you just point it in the general direction of the threat, pull the trigger, and a wall of lead takes care of the rest. It's a comforting thought, isn't it? It suggests a weapon that forgives error, a point-and-click interface for a high-stress situation. It's the firearm equivalent of a magic wand. But like most things that sound too good to be true, this one deserves a much closer look. The entire premise of this myth is based on the concept of spread, the way the cloud of pellets, or shot, expands after leaving the barrel. In movies and video games, this spread is often depicted as a massive cone that can clear a room from a single vantage point. The reality, however, is governed by physics, not by a scriptwriter's imagination. The spread is far, far tighter at the typical distances you'd encounter inside a home. We're not talking about shooting clays in an open field. We're talking about hallways, doorways, and bedrooms. So, to test this, we're going to do what we do best: build a rig. I've set up a series of paper silhouette targets at distances that simulate a typical home environment. We're starting at just 3 yards, that's 9 feet, the length of a small room. Then we'll move to 7 yards, about the length of a standard hallway. And finally to 10 yards, which could represent the distance from your bedroom door to the top of the stairs. We're using a standard 12-gauge pump-action shotgun with a cylinder bore choke, loaded with a common home defense load, double-aught buckshot. Let's start with our first test at 3 yards. I'm going to aim this dead center mass. Okay, let's go take a look. See this? All 9 pellets are in a group that I can cover with my fist. It's a single, ragged hole, not a wide, forgiving pattern. If I had just pointed in the general direction and been off by just 6 or 7 inches, I would have missed the target entirely. At this range, a shotgun behaves more like a big, powerful rifle than a scattergun. Now let's back it up to 7 yards, our hallway distance. Again, aiming for the center. Walking up to the target now, we can see the pattern has started to open up a little bit. It's now about the size of a dinner plate. This is still a relatively tight pattern. You absolutely have to have your sights on the target to guarantee a hit. A miss is still very much a possibility, and in a home, a miss means those pellets are going somewhere else, and we'll get to what that means in a later chapter. For our final test in this section, we're at 10 yards. Okay, let's analyze the results. The pattern here is maybe the size of a large pizza. It's bigger, yes, but it's by no means a room-clearing wall of steel. More importantly, look at this. Even with a center mass hold, a couple of pellets are already starting to land on the very edge of the silhouette. This means that if your aim is slightly off, you could have pellets missing the intended target and continuing on their merry way. The critical takeaway here is that a shotgun is a shouldering and aiming weapon, just like a rifle. You must bring it up to your shoulder, get a proper cheek weld, align the sights, whether it's a simple bead or something more advanced, and place that sight on the target. The idea that you can just shoot from the hip, or point it vaguely, is not just wrong, it's dangerously irresponsible. In the chaos of a real-life defensive scenario, fundamentals are what you fall back on. So, when we look at the evidence, the myth is completely busted. A shotgun demands the same level of marksmanship and discipline as any other firearm. The spread offers a slightly larger margin for error than a single rifle or pistol bullet, but it is by no means a substitute for proper aiming. Believing otherwise is a recipe for disaster, potentially causing you to miss your target and endanger everyone else in your home. The shotgun is not magic. It's a tool that requires skill. Now for one of the most iconic sounds in all of cinema, the of a pump-action shotgun being racked. It's the auditory equivalent of a rattlesnake's warning. The myth is that this sound alone is so universally terrifying that any intruder will immediately turn tail and flee, avoiding any confrontation whatsoever. It's a powerful fantasy, the idea of resolving a life-threatening situation without ever having to fire a shot. It suggests a bloodless victory, a psychological win. But let's break this down from a tactical and psychological perspective. Relying on this sound as your primary line of defense is a huge gamble. You are making a massive assumption about the mental state, intentions, and sobriety of the person who has broken into your home. You're betting your life, and your family's lives, that the intruder is a rational actor who will respond to fear in a predictable way. What if they don't? Let's consider a few scenarios. First, what if the intruder is armed? By racking the shotgun, you have just announced your exact location. You've given away your position and the fact that you are armed, turning a potential situation of advantage, where you know where they are but they don't know where you are, into an even fight, or worse. You've essentially just yelled, "Here I am, come and get me," to someone who may already have their own weapon drawn and ready. Second, what if the intruder is under the influence of drugs or alcohol? Their perception of risk, their response to fear, and their decision-making processes can be severely impaired. The sound you expect to be terrifying might not even register properly, or it could provoke an aggressive, unpredictable reaction instead of a fearful retreat. You cannot count on a logical response from an illogical person. This is a variable you simply cannot control. To illustrate this, let's run a little scenario. We've set up a mock house layout. I'm playing the homeowner, and we have a professional stunt performer playing the role of the intruder. In scenario 1, I'll hear the break-in, grab my shotgun, and rack it loudly. I grab the shotgun. Now, our intruder knows I'm in this bedroom and I'm armed. He can now choose to hide, wait for me to come out, or try to rush my position. I've lost the element of surprise. Now let's try scenario 2. This time I quietly grab my shotgun, which I've already stored in a cruiser-ready condition. Chamber empty, magazine tube full. I move to a safe, defensible position, like the corner of my bedroom doorway, and I wait. I remain silent. The intruder doesn't know where I am, if I'm home, or if I'm armed. I have the tactical advantage. I control the situation. I can call 911 and wait for the police, with my weapon at the ready if the intruder forces a confrontation. The core principle here is that information is king in a defensive situation. By racking the slide, you are giving away valuable information for free. A much safer and more tactically sound practice is to keep the shotgun in a state where a round is already chambered if you deem it necessary and safe for your storage situation, or to practice loading it quietly. The goal is to maintain every possible advantage, and the element of surprise is one of the most powerful advantages you can have. So, while the sound is undeniably intimidating and scare off an amateur, opportunistic burglar, you cannot bet your life on might. Relying on it is a tactical blunder that surrenders your position and initiative. It's a strategy based on hope, not on sound defensive principles. For that reason, we have to call this myth busted. It's a dangerous piece of Hollywood fiction that has no place in a real-world home defense plan. Your safety is more important than a cool sound effect. This next myth is one of the most serious we'll tackle because it deals with unintended consequences and the safety of everyone in and around your home. The myth is that shotgun loads, particularly buckshot, are less likely to over-penetrate interior and exterior walls compared to rifle or pistol rounds. The idea is that the pellets will dump all their energy into the target or the first wall they hit, making them safer for use in a crowded suburban or apartment environment. This belief seems plausible on the surface. We think of shotgun pellets as being individually less powerful than a single solid rifle bullet. But physics, once again, tells a more complicated story. We're talking about multiple heavy projectiles traveling at over 1,200 feet per second. That's a tremendous amount of kinetic energy that has to go somewhere. To say it will just conveniently stop where you want it to is wishful thinking. The only way to know for sure is to test it. So, we've built a testing rig that simulates a section of a modern home. We have 2 sheets of 5/8 inch drywall, separated by 3.5 inches of space to represent an interior wall. Behind that, at a distance of 10 feet, we have another interior wall. And behind that, we have a final wall made of drywall, insulation, and vinyl siding to simulate the exterior wall of a house. In front of it all, we've placed a block of calibrated ballistics gelatin to represent our target. Our first test will be with the most common home defense load, 12-gauge double-aught buckshot. We're firing from a distance of 5 yards into the gelatin. The theory is that the gelatin will absorb most of the energy. Okay, the gelatin shows a devastating wound cavity, no question about its stopping power. But look at this. Several of the 9 pellets pass completely through the 12-inch gelatin block. Now let's check our walls. As we examine the first interior wall behind the gelatin, we can see multiple holes. The pellets that exited the gelatin didn't just stop. They punched right through both layers of drywall. Now let's look at the second interior wall, 10 feet further back. We still have pellets that made it all the way to this wall and penetrated it as well. This represents a projectile going through an attacker, through your bedroom wall, across the hall, and into your child's bedroom wall. That is a terrifying reality. Now let's run the test without the gelatin block, simulating a complete miss. This is a critical test because in the stress of a real event, misses happen. We're firing the same double-aught buckshot load directly at our first interior wall. The result is, frankly, shocking. The buckshot blew a massive hole in the first wall, and when we look at the exterior wall behind it, every single one of those 9 lead pellets has punched clean through the drywall, the insulation, and the siding. This demonstrates unequivocally that double-aught buckshot presents a significant over-penetration risk, both after passing through a target, and especially in the case of a miss. Those pellets can and will travel through multiple interior walls, and even exit your home, posing a lethal threat to family members in other rooms or even to your neighbors. The idea that it's somehow safer than other rounds in this regard is demonstrably false. So, what does this mean? It doesn't mean a shotgun is useless for home defense, but it means you must be acutely aware of your backstop and what lies beyond your target. It also means that load selection is critical. There are other options, like number 4 buckshot, which has more, smaller pellets that tend to penetrate less. But even then, you cannot ignore the fundamental physics. Any round effective enough to stop a threat is effective enough to penetrate common building materials. This myth is resoundingly busted, and it's a bust that could save a life. We've established that the shotgun is a powerful tool, but is it the best tool for every single person in every single situation? The mythos surrounding the shotgun often presents it as a one-size-fits-all solution. The image is usually a capable, strong man wielding it with ease. But the reality of gun ownership and home defense is that defenders come in all shapes, sizes, ages, and strength levels. A weapon that's perfect for one person might be completely unmanageable for another. The first and most immediate factor to consider is recoil. A 12-gauge shotgun, especially with a powerful buckshot or slug load, produces a significant amount of recoil. It's a violent push back into the shooter's shoulder. For a large person who is well-trained and has a proper stance, this is manageable. But for a smaller statured person, an elderly individual with less upper body strength, or someone with a shoulder injury, that recoil can be brutal. It's not just about discomfort. Excessive recoil can cause a shooter to develop a flinch, where they anticipate the kick and jerk the trigger, throwing off their aim completely. It also dramatically slows down follow-up shots. If the first shot doesn't neutralize the threat, and the recoil has thrown you completely off balance, your ability to deliver a second, effective shot is severely compromised. This is a critical failure in a life-or-death encounter. Then there's the issue of weight and length. A typical home defense shotgun is not a lightweight firearm. It can weigh 8 pounds or more, and its length can make it awkward to maneuver in the tight confines of a home. Trying to round a corner in a narrow hallway, or hold the weapon at the ready for an extended period, can be physically exhausting for someone without sufficient strength. This fatigue can lead to poor weapon handling and bad decisions. To demonstrate this, we've invited a few different people to the range today. We have a man who is 6'2" and 220 pounds, a woman who is 5'4" and 120 pounds, and an older gentleman in his late 60s. We're going to have them each run a simple course of fire with the 12-gauge shotgun. What we consistently see is that while our larger shooter handles it well, our smaller and older shooters struggle with the weight and are visibly punished by the recoil, making it difficult for them to stay on target. Now, let's compare this to some alternatives. A modern pistol, for example, is lightweight, has far less recoil, and can be operated with one hand if necessary. A crucial advantage if you need to hold a phone to call 911 or guide a family member to safety. A pistol-caliber carbine, or a lightweight AR-15 style rifle, offers the stability of a long gun with very low recoil, making it incredibly easy for almost anyone to shoot accurately and quickly. We're having our same group of shooters try a 9mm pistol and a 5.56 carbine. The difference is night and day. They can hold the weapons easily, their accuracy is better, and they aren't intimidated by the recoil. They can fire multiple shots on target in the time it takes them to recover from a single shotgun blast. This isn't to say these are definitively better, as they have their own considerations, like over-penetration, which we've seen is also an issue with shotguns. The point is that firearm selection is a deeply personal choice. The best home defense weapon is the one you can operate comfortably, confidently, and effectively under extreme stress. For some, that may very well be a 20-gauge or a shotgun with a recoil-reducing stock. For many others, a handgun or a carbine will be a much more practical and manageable solution. The myth that a 12-gauge shotgun is the default best choice for everyone is simply not true. It's busted. A common argument in favor of the pump-action shotgun for home defense is that it's an inexpensive and simple weapon. You can walk into almost any gun store and find a reliable pump-action shotgun for just a few $100s. Compared to the price of many modern pistols and rifles, this seems like a huge advantage. The myth is that this low cost of entry makes it the most accessible and practical choice for the average homeowner on a budget. And it's true, the initial purchase price is often very low. A basic, no-frills pump-action shotgun is one of the most affordable firearms you can buy. This accessibility is a good thing. However, the cost of a firearm is not just the price tag you see at the store. The true cost of ownership includes ammunition for practice, proper training, and any necessary accessories like a light or a way to store it securely. This is where the cheap shotgun myth starts to fall apart. Let's talk about ammunition. A box of 25 birdshot shells for practice might be relatively cheap, but the defensive ammunition, the buckshot or slugs you would actually rely on to save your life, is significantly more expensive. A box of 5 double-aught buckshot shells can cost as much as a box of 50 rounds of 9mm pistol ammunition. This cost difference becomes a major barrier to regular effective training. And training is the absolute key. Owning a firearm for self-defense without being thoroughly trained in its use is like owning a fire extinguisher but not knowing how to pull the pin. It's a false sense of security. You need to go to the range regularly. You need to practice shouldering the weapon, managing the recoil, performing reloads under pressure, and clearing malfunctions. Because of the higher cost of ammo and the physical toll of the recoil, many shotgun owners simply don't practice enough. Let's run a drill. I'm going to simulate a scenario where I've fired the 5 rounds in my shotgun's magazine tube, and I need to reload. Under stress, fumbling with individual bulky shotgun shells, and feeding them one by one into the magazine tube is a slow, complex process. It requires a ton of practice to do it smoothly. Compare that to reloading a pistol or a rifle, where you drop an empty magazine and insert a fresh one in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds. Furthermore, the simplicity of the pump action is often overstated. Yes, the manual of arms is straightforward, but it's also prone to user-induced error under stress. The most common error is short-stroking or short-shucking the pump, where the shooter doesn't rack the slide all the way back and then all the way forward with sufficient force. This results in a failure to eject the spent shell, or a failure to feed the next round, turning your multi-shot repeater into a single-shot club at the worst possible moment. We see this all the time with new shooters. We'll induce a short-stroke malfunction on the range and watch them struggle. Clearing this kind of jam takes time and training, 2 things you don't have when facing a threat. A semi-automatic firearm, whether it's a pistol, rifle, or even a semi-auto shotgun, eliminates this specific user-induced error from the equation. It's one less thing to worry about when your adrenaline is pumping. So while the initial sticker price is low, the total cost of becoming and remaining proficient with a pump-action shotgun is much higher than many people realize. The expensive practice ammo and the need for extensive training to overcome the weapon's specific challenges in reloading and malfunction clearing mean it's not the simple, cheap solution it's made out to be. The idea that it's a buy-it-and-forget-it tool is a dangerous myth. Your life is worth the investment in proper training, regardless of the weapon you choose. So, after busting all these myths, where does that leave the shotgun? Have we proven that it's a terrible choice for home defense? Absolutely not. What we've done is strip away the Hollywood hype and the gun store lore to look at the tool for what it really is. The shotgun is a specialized piece of equipment with a very specific set of strengths and a very real set of weaknesses. The reality is nuanced, and understanding that nuance is key to making an informed decision. Let's start by summarizing the strengths, because they are significant. The number one advantage of a 12-gauge shotgun is its terminal performance at close range. A center mass hit with a load of double-aught buckshot is absolutely devastating. There is arguably no other common man-portable firearm that can deliver that much energy onto a target with a single pull of the trigger. When it comes to sheer, undeniable stopping power, the shotgun is the undisputed king of close-quarters combat. Another strength is its versatility. By changing the ammunition, you can change the shotgun's role. You can load it with buckshot for defense, slugs for longer-range engagements or dealing with barriers, or less lethal options like beanbag rounds in certain specific contexts. This flexibility is something that pistols and rifles can't easily match. And yes, while we busted the myth of relying on it, the psychological impact of seeing the large bore of a shotgun is very real, and can be an intimidating factor. However, we must be honest about the weaknesses we've demonstrated. The recoil of a 12-gauge can be prohibitive for many users, making it difficult to control and slow for follow-up shots. The limited capacity, typically 4 to 8 rounds, combined with a slow and complex reloading process, is a major tactical disadvantage compared to magazine-fed pistols and rifles that can carry 15, 20, or 30 rounds and be reloaded in seconds. The myth of not needing to aim is dangerously false. A shotgun requires careful aim to be effective and safe. And the risk of over-penetration is not just real, it's severe. Buckshot can and will penetrate multiple interior walls and even exterior walls, posing a grave danger to anyone else in or near your home. This is a liability that you are responsible for, and it cannot be ignored. Every pellet has a lawyer attached to it. Furthermore, the pump action's manual operation introduces the potential for user-induced malfunctions like short-stroking, which can render the weapon useless at the worst possible moment. This requires a higher level of dedicated training to master compared to a semi-automatic platform. The weapon's length and weight can also make it unwieldy for some users in the tight confines of a home. So, the shotgun is not a magic wand. It is not a beginner's weapon. It is a powerful, expert-level tool that demands respect, training, and a deep understanding of its limitations. It can be an excellent choice for a well-trained, physically capable person who understands the backstop issues and has practiced relentlessly with it. For many others, its weaknesses may outweigh its strengths. The ultimate reality check is this. The shotgun is a viable option, but it is not the only option, and it may not be the best option for you. The decision requires an honest self-assessment of your physical abilities, your living situation, your budget for training, and your willingness to commit to becoming truly proficient. Don't choose a weapon based on myths, choose it based on your reality. We've spent the day in the workshop and on the range putting the shotgun through its paces. We've measured spread, we've tested penetration, we've analyzed the ergonomics, and we've separated the hard facts from the convenient fictions. We've seen that the shotgun's reputation is built on a mixture of incredible power and some equally incredible myths. It's not the simple point-and-shoot problem solver that movies and TV would have us believe. It's a complex tool that requires a high level of skill and understanding to wield safely and effectively. The truth is, there is no single ultimate home defense weapon. The perfect choice depends entirely on the individual. It's a balance of stopping power, user-friendliness, capacity, and your specific environment. The shotgun scores a 10 out of 10 on stopping power, but it might score much lower on user-friendliness or capacity for many people. A pistol or carbine might offer a more balanced solution for your specific needs, even if they don't have the same raw single-shot energy. The most important thing is not what you choose, but that you train with it until its operation is second nature. So, we're left with the final question, and this one I can't answer for you. It's a question you have to answer for yourself after weighing all the evidence we've presented today. In the real world, in the terrifying moment you hope never comes, would you trust a shotgun for your home defense, or is it just Hollywood hype? Think about it, stay safe, and keep questioning.